Jessica, very warm welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Jessica, I want to begin by taking you back a little bit. Those early years that didn't appear to be that straightforward. I believe as a toddler, you suffered an incident where you had about 15% of burns to your body. You've also said that you were aware that you didn't look similar to other people. And you said something really interesting along the lines of, but there was a part of me that tried to push it down because I still wanted to be accepted. I still wanted to be part of my family, be part of society. And when I read that, I felt, gosh, like so many of us in different shapes and forms have felt that at some point. And then, of course, you lived with 3 brothers, which I imagine was in and of itself eventful. So let's start there, Jessica. Talk to us a little bit about the early years and what you recall of it.
So I was born missing my left arm, and to this day we still don't know why that occurred. It was just one of those unfortunate things. But the doctors advised my parents to have me fitted with a prosthetic limb from as young as possible, thinking that it would help aid my growth and development as a child. Now, of course, the technology back in the early 80s is nothing like what it is today.
Sure.
And the arm that I had resembled more of like a claw. It was more of quite a hideous contraption, if I'm honest, and very difficult for me to get used to. I think one of the things that the medical profession weren't acutely aware of at the time is that I wasn't broken and I didn't need to be fixed. However, this was something that they thought would sort of help, but I think wanting to force me to fit in is where there was a bit of a disconnect. And so it was really difficult for me to get used to having 2 arms. And one particular morning I was in the kitchen and my mum was making morning tea, and being a curious toddler, I was only 18 months old, I noticed a plate of biscuits on the bench. And so I snuck over and I reached up with my prosthetic arm to take a biscuit. Now, because I couldn't feel or detect heat, I didn't realize that I had knocked the kettle, which had just boiled. And as I looked up, I spilt boiling water onto myself, sustaining 3rd-degree burns to 15% of my body. Now, at the time, I was rushed to Sydney Children's Hospital, which is where we were living. I underwent immediate skin grafting. So I've had skin removed from my thighs to replace the skin that was lost on my neck and chest. So it was a very, very traumatic experience. And I don't remember a lot about those particular events or those moments. But as you mentioned, growing up in a world that is very much focused on our appearance and linking that with success, and the fact that I kind of tapped into that at such a young age was where some of my own personal struggles started to develop. So from as young as 5, I can remember being aware of the fact that I was different. As you mentioned, I have 3 younger brothers. None of them have a disability. No one in my family has a disability. And so I was trying to make sense of my identity from the moment I could talk, trying to understand where I fit in. And I think that that has been a journey that I've been on my entire life and will forever be. And what I've tried to do is then involve people in that conversation, to include them, because as you said, so many people can identify with that and can relate on their own personal level. And so it's a forever journey, but where I am today is because of my disability, not in spite of it.
I love that. That is so empowering. Absolutely. Jessica, and then starting school, I want to talk specifically about bullying, which is every child and every parent's nightmare. We were just talking about our kids before we rolled, and it's inevitably something that many kids will go through, that many of us have gone through and will continue to see. And you said that that was a challenging phase for you since the disability became kind of the obvious thing for children to point out. Talk to us a little bit about what sort of bullying you faced, and also, I suppose, as a young person, how did you react to it? Because, kind of in hindsight, one can look back at it, in hindsight is always 2020, but at the time and, just your parents, talk to us a little bit about that experience.
I think for me, the understanding of bullying was more around the exclusion that I felt.
Yeah.
So yes, people were pointing and staring and young kids teasing and calling me, all sorts of names, but it wasn't